Hello and welcome to Breakfast Central here on News Central. It feels good to be here. As always, it's Monday, the fresh start to a brand new working week. My name is Joe Hansen.
And my name is Olive Emodi. Thank you for starting the week with us. We'll be picking off some of the stories that happened over the course of the week, the past week as well as the weekend, particularly one that caused global outrage. And a story that we're not going to let slide, even though there have been updates regarding what some have termed a rape festival, what is actually called the Aluedo Festival that the leaders of the community have claimed have been hijacked. We'll be bringing you more details on that. I am Olive Emodi and you're welcome to the show.
And I'm Benga Boroa. Thanks for joining us wherever you're watching from across the world, from Lusaka to Havana to Namibia. This is Breakfast Central. We bring you all the news and information and current affairs. You need to start your day right. I'm waiting for the guys to ask me how my weekend went. Well, I'm not happy at all.
I thought you would say from
paid the
Lusaka to
highest price.
Didn't you say Lusaka to Abraka?
You have said Lusaka to Abraka.
Bro, we don't have... Petrol is expensive. I'm not smiling.
Now, no be time to crack joke.
Today's show is not a smiling show. No jokes. The highest I've ever paid for petrol in my life in Nigeria, 1,335. And it's the prognosis is not looking good at all. And in all of this, we've not seen a coordinated response from the Nigerian government on their plans to cushion the effects of this energy crisis. And then the players, the belligerents in all of this are making it worse. Yesterday, President Trump was threatening to commit war crimes and, you know, hit Iran's energy infrastructure, which is in contravention of the Geneva laws. So, and Iran in this war, they've been doing tit for tat. So if you do this, I will do this. So they've said if you eat energy infrastructure, we're going to hit the energy infrastructure in the Gulf. And you know what that means for global energy market. We might be looking at, God forbid, 4,000 a litre. I hope we'll never get that. So please, let there be peace in the Middle East and let the people that started this end it.
Benga, you're even going too far. Well, the other aspect of all of this conversation is that you still have experts, or I wouldn't really say they're experts. You have few persons, analysts, who tell you even if the four refineries are working, the prices will still go up.
I don't like that.
And so on. I don't like
and
that.
I don't believe
and I don't believe that statement because
false.
We've seen the differences between countries and the current prices, how they've gone up. Ours is above, is not 50%. Yeah. We're talking about over 100%. Do you know, as we speak now, some people are thinking how they're going to go to work. So we're thinking, oh, do I really need to...
I mean, life was already, cost of living was already high. And then
it's very hard.
We're battling with a lot. Let me just mention them quickly. One, there is no power. There's no light. There is no power. The Minister of Power is expected to resign this week, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. So you can go and focus on his political aspirations. But you wonder, okay, so after all the band A, B, and C, then you want to leave and go and focus? I think you shouldn't just leave and focus. I think you should retire and not go anywhere. And you should be questioned.
Exactly, because what are you going to tell the people of Oyo when you serve the government? What's your scorecard? Yes, watch the election.
It's very sad, and just to join you both, because again, this is really the highest that we've ever bought petrol. Even when there was fuel scarcity, we never spent this much. At the very most, then it was 1,000 naira. But now we're buying fuel for 1,300 plus. If you see 1,310, is a miracle. I was literally in shock because I wasn't aware. I know the price had been increased, but I wasn't as aware as to how much.
Yeah.
So I went to buy fuel last night, and then I parked. I told the guy, I'll fill up my tank. Then I just said,
move.
Wait, hold on. How much? And then he told me, well, I think 1,320. And I froze. I said, how?
As how now?
And then I started reaching out to a few loved ones, and they said, oh, you were not aware.
Were you not aware? Were you not informed?
There is normally 1,330. How much are people earning? How many salaries have been increased? Salaries are not getting increased, yet cost of living wants to kill the living. You take your salary, you use your salary on transport fare, and you know what's even worse? Now there's going to be a food inflation because the food will be used, the food suppliers, the farmers, all of them are applying transport.
Of course, they're
going to reflect that in their cost.
Yeah.
So we're literally struggling, like they say, the cost of living wants to kill the living. It's very, very exhausting to live in Nigeria in this moment. And like Benga had said earlier, We need to know the plans that the government has made to cushion the effect, because if the war keeps getting worse in the Middle East...
I know the plans.
Other countries are doing things.
Share rice.
A rise of compatriots.
Share
You know,
rice.
Japan is introducing some form of subsidies.
Of course.
Pakistan has introduced
Philippines.
4-day week, work week.
Yeah.
Other countries, Philippines, other people are doing anything. What we have from our government is absolute silence. Yesterday, Mr. President, during the weekend, he said that Nigeria's economy we've gone past. If you don't do something about the situation now, all the economic gains all the projections
everything
will be rubbish. So, and a responsible government should be sensitive to the needs of the people. They need to address Nigerians. What are your plans for this period? Are you going to reintroduce a form of temporary subsidy? Because Nigerians, this is unsustainable. And employees of labor too should, you know, if you can have a hybrid system where your workers have to work remotely, please, you should do that, because cost of transportation is exponential.
We should also be worried because even Iran is now saying that should the United States continue to disturb them, they'll be looking at bombing the Bab el-Mandeb also. And another
the second point.
The second point. And once they do that, this one that we're shouting that we're buying fuel for 1,000
It will be red.
But then again, let's look at it from internally. Crude. We're blessed with crude. But yet, Dangote over the weekend said he's still importing crude. And then you wonder, so what is the plan? What's the...
Do you know there are about
the
40
charade?
charges, 40 organizations that charge Dangote one sort of ridiculous tax or the other.
So,
if they take that off for now, I'm sure it will bring down the price to a certain degree.
So the current reality, I think we've all moved on from the conversation about our refineries and said, you know, we have to make...
Refineries are dead.
Forget about the refineries now. We have to make realistic plans with what is on ground. The federal government says that they are not unaware of the fuel price and the pressure that is mounted on Nigerians, and that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is taking into consideration measures to be able to cushion the effect. The question is, what are these measures?
Exactly.
You know, we want to see what the measures are. We want to hear, the president is the Minister of Petroleum. We want to see what are the plans. Is it going to be any better, or are we going to keep hearing that we should endure and in the nearest future this would happen? We're hearing that President has promised support for citizens. What kind of support is the question?
I mean, you're head of family. Your family hasn't eaten. They're struggling. And the head of the family comes, my children, I'm taking into consideration, I know what is happening, but we're thinking about it. People's survival. There are people that depend on daily survival.
All right. We will continue with the rant session as we proceed.
No, it's not a rant.
It is rant because we are all upset. We are ranting because it's our reality. It's the reality of every one of us. Everyone on this set is affected by those behind the camera, because nobody really...
Every Nigerian.
How many people are increasing salaries? Which organization is increasing salaries? And then you're coming to work, you're spending... A number of us, we are crossing 3rd Mainland Bridge to get to the office, and you're paying ridiculous sums. It's just not fair. But let's start with another very unfair story. Reports reaching us, and you know, this sparked global outrage. The disturbing reports of rape and sexual assault of young women during a festival in Oramudu community, Ozoro in Delta State, after multiple videos surfaced online showing women being attacked, stripped and groped by groups of men. The incidents, reportedly linked to a local festival said to restrict women's movement, have sparked widespread condemnation, with some accounts alleging that youths in the area took advantage of the situation to carry out the assaults. Reacting to the viral footage, the Delta State Police Command described the acts as alarming, disgusting and embarrassing, confirming that the Commissioner of Police has ordered a full investigation. Authorities are now urging witnesses to come forward with useful information, assuring that those responsible will be identified and brought to justice as calls intensify for accountability and stronger protection. Let's take a look at some of the jarring videos. I must warn you, because these videos have made a number of people go on social media to cry. Lots of, you know, social media personalities have gone on social media to cry. I saw the video of Maraji crying. A number of people, because it's quite triggering. These are some of the videos of women who were being assaulted because of this festival. Let's take a look. All right.
I'm gonna leave at the city.
Those disturbing videos you've seen there are videos that occurred in Ozoro in Delta State. Very appalling, to put it quite mildly. But the leaders in the community had explained that there was no such a thing as a rape festival. In fact, the king did say he wasn't aware that there was any such festival. What they talked about was a festival called Aluedo Festival, and that the meaning of that festival is like a festival of fertility, where couples who had been struggling to have children, would playfully be dragged. They'll pour sand on them and encourage them, you know, just hoping that the goddess of fertility shines upon them. And, you know, these were some of the explanations given, which did not fly with Nigerians because, first of all, those videos, what we did not even want to be hearing was speeches. What wanted to be seen, arrests carried out immediately. How did such reality happen? They said that they were not aware. The ladies said they were not informed. That typically what would be done would be that there'll be an announcement about the festival, and before then they would announce so that women will know not to go out at a certain time. Now, in Delta State, in Asaba, I know that there were times when, as women, we couldn't come out. There were certain masquerades that they call it egugu. You're not allowed to see egugu as a woman. There's still certain cultures and traditions that some have frowned upon, but they'll tell you it's the culture of the community. The question is, how do we draw the line between a culture and what impedes on fundamental human right? As a citizen, I have a right to movement. So when a culture says, because I'm female, I cannot go out at a certain time because I cannot see a masquerade, do we still have those kind of cultures? And should those cultures still have a place in 2026? I think these are some of the conversations that come to the spotlight. That's one. But going back to the sexual assault videos, the good news is that there have been arrests made. We are bringing this up again because we do not want it to be a situation where it will be one of those videos that have been swept under the carpet, that there will be just a fake outrage in the first few days of this happening and then everybody goes on to business as usual. It cannot be business as usual. There has to be justice for these women. Justice meaning that every single person who was captured on video will not just be arrested, will be made to face the law and will spend the good quality part of their life in jail. That is the only thing that will look like justice in this video. All right.
The organizers were equally invited to the palace, and the police officers did also make a move. Let's see a footage of what the organizers were saying while they were asked in the palace and asked why they had to go towards that route, ensuring that they carried on an event and then women were indeed assaulted. Let's see if we have that.
I have more than 200 photographs and videos of what transpired yesterday. Now, I'm highly embarrassed. Kings, government officials, people that wish this kingdom well. I just can't explain what is happening at this time. No, I cannot say I don't know. I'm indicting myself. I know, I'm indicting myself. Now you're taking a decision to celebrate. And what you are saying is that the rape, the abuse and harassment of the young ladies yesterday was coincidental. There you go. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. I wanted to make one point clear. I've been a king for 20-something years now. I've never heard that the weather was celebrated with girls being abused, harassed, and raped. However, I know that the connotation, the deeper meaning of your "we announce every day for 2 weeks," I didn't hear nobody came to tell me they could.
Great Nigerian students. Following our publication yesterday to the general student community of Delta State, especially the students of Southern Delta University, Ozoro, regarding the case of students being harassed, molested in Ozoro Kingdom. We have, of today, visited Ozoro Kingdom, and by the grace of God, we've been able to meet with the king of Ozoro Kingdom, the leadership of NANS, Joint Campus Council, Delta State Axis, the zonal representatives are also here, sent by the zonal coordinator. And of course, we have the student union government, led by Comrade Precious, and the Dean of Student Affairs, here representing the management of the Southern Delta University. Today we've come for fact findings. We've been able to...
Well, first of all, we must say that we do hear that the police has decided to, have decided to take this case up. And here on Breakfast Central today, we will be joined by the President General of Ozoro Kingdom just a few minutes from now. So stick around and stay with us. I would get to listen to what he has to say concerning the incident. It's very pathetic. I can say that this is one of the many stories that messed up my weekend in terms of my ability to think. I mean, I asked a question on X. If that was your mother, if that was your sister, if that was your sibling, how would you feel?
I mean, we're not paying attention to the moral decadence in society because everyone is busy trying to make ends meet. You know, parents don't even have time to look after their words, and they pick up all sorts of vices and hang out with all sorts of people. There's no fear anymore. We've become a culture that as long as you bring money, it's fine. Money solves all problems. And look at the type of society we're breeding. I was absolutely disgusted in some of these things I saw over the weekend, and in people, you know, trying to make a case, some sort of case, or say not all men and things like that. When these sorts of things happen, that's not the time.
It's not the time.
This time of debate. And I'm glad that the law enforcement agents are doing something about it. Maybe because of the outcry, but it would be nice to see arrests made and to follow this to a just conclusion. I'm also wondering if this festival has been there for a long time. Why didn't we hear about this sort of incidents last year, 3 years ago, and in the past? What made it different this year? So why the assault? So, I mean, these are some of the questions we'll be posing to the representative of the Ozoro Kingdom.
The Delta State Command CP had mentioned that they had arrested
4 persons were arrested.
Yeah, now
and then they picked
there
up
have been 11 additional suspects that have been arrested, so bringing a total of 15 suspects in custody. We'll continue to follow up with that. Like Joe mentioned earlier, we have someone from Ozoro Kingdom joining us this morning. But let's see what Nigerians have been saying about the story on X. The anger has been palpable. This one says, the fact that people are being warned to stay inside instead of the criminals being rounded up tells you everything you need to know about the state of security. This is a massive failure of local leadership. Ozoro deserves better than this nightmare. Let's take a few more tweets. This is alarming, disgusting, and embarrassing. The CP has ordered an investigation into the incident. The command condemns this in totality. No custom or tradition is superior to the rights of citizens. The Commissioner of Police, Delta State CP Aina Adeshola, urges Deltans to remain calm while assuring that those responsible for this barbaric act will be arrested and brought to justice. The command also calls for witnesses who can provide with useful information that can aid the ongoing investigation. Let's pin this post here. In response to this, Bright Hedaface tweet, Renu Oduala had then responded, saying that instead of him putting out speeches and writing things like this, they should be arresting people. She ended it by saying, Bright, we know Bright. And I guess that upset him. And he responded to her saying, any tweets that I put out turns you on. Renu, why? And many people ask,
I mean, like,
so whenever
not
I
to
issue a
have
statement,
the
it turns you on.
awareness.
Do you understand? Like, we're talking about
Self-awareness.
sexual harassment.
And you go ahead
and put out a tweet.
put out this.
And as a result, there have
shameful.
been many attacks. Renu responded saying, I asked for answers from Delta State Police PRO on a mass sexual assault case. His reply was to sexualize me instead. This is why Nigerian rape victims do not report cases. It is unprofessional and simply unacceptable. Sack Bright Golden Boy now. And she tags Tunji Disu and Police Nigeria. There have been also calls for him to step aside, but he's deleted the tweet, and many are asking that, you know, in the case of sexual assault, one needs to be very, very sensitive about the kind of tweets that they put out, especially those who are the law enforcement agencies. But we'll talk more about that story. Let's bring you another political update, or another story that this time is more political. Nigerian politics, of course, when prominent figures come together, rarely goes unnoticed. And this latest meeting has certainly raised eyebrows. The former presidential candidate of the Labour Party at the time, Peter Obi, on Sunday visited Kano, where he held talks with former governor and political heavyweight Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso at his Miller Road residence. The meeting, which also had in attendance Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde and Senator Seriaki Dixon, coincided with the Kwankwasia Salah celebration, drawing attention from political observers. While the visit has fueled speculation about possible political realignment, particularly amid reports linking Kwankwaso to the African Democratic Congress ADC, Obi insisted his mission was simply to celebrate the festive season and pay respect. He, however, used the opportunity to reiterate his vision of restoring Kano's industrial strength and economic vibrancy as discussions around alliances and the road to future elections continue to gather momentum. Let's take a look at this video before we share what Nigerians are saying. Meanwhile, you can go on YouTube, where we're streaming live via New Central TV Live, to drop your comments, and we will take all the comments on YouTube before we head to X. It's expected when political meetings like this happen, or when meetings between huge political figures occur, what happens is that Nigerians then start to put two and two together and make speculations about
Nigerians and journalists, food has been served, food is ready.
Oh, yeah.
He hot, as they hot to go the chopper.
They've dangled the
and that's because also there have been speculations before now about the possible alignment of Kwankwaso. He himself did say that he will be ready to align himself with any party that would give him president or vice presidential ticket. And there have been speculations as to where he could head. The latest leanings from the grapevine look like it's towards the ADC. And this clip right there just gave people all the food that they need to make those analogies.
Well, just to mention very quickly, one of the key things that we see in the video here is led to a lot of people already putting one and two together, like you've said. They've said Kwankwaso and Obi, both of them. And then there are rumors as well that Kwankwaso will be leaving the NNPP to move to the ADC. We do not know how that will pan out. But everyone knows simply well that the NNPP is a party that strongly has his footprints on it. So how he's going to leave that party, move to the ADC, well, we don't know.
Yeah, but NNPP can only be said to be very popular in Kano State. I mean, you never know. But I will dismiss that speculation of him going to the APC after this meeting with Mr. Peter Obi. And I wonder what they're up to, because Mr. Peter Obi is already in the ADC, and he's said, I think politicians say one thing and they might do otherwise. But he moves, and his personality is not your typical politician, because he would say one thing and do it So he said he's not moving from the from the ADC, regardless of what happens at the primaries. So let's see what happens. And I mean, it would, if the current ruling party saw that video, they will be worried that maybe these guys have a joker up their sleeves.
All right, let's see what Nigerians are saying on X, and then we'll take some comments from YouTube. Our first tweet in this regard: what is Peter Obi cooking? Well, if you ask me now, who I go ask?
Banga.
Our next tweet: pulling such a crowd in the heart of the North is amazing, but the problem is not the people, it is the INEC. And Chief and Queen says, politics aside, moments like this show the importance of dialogue, respect, and staying close to the people. It's always a good look when leaders step out to engage directly than from a distance, Chief and Queen say. And our next tweet, before we head to YouTube, says, he's just running helter-skelter. He's desperate for a new Nigeria, not power. Okay. I would like us to take, okay, Nigerians are not as divided as politicians think. Sometimes all it takes is the right combination to expose that truth. I'll take some comments on YouTube regarding the Peter Obi story. Mr. Johnson says, let the permutations begin. To take you back to what your opinion was on PO saying he's not sure he's going to win ADC ticket, they quickly shut the Labour Party door yesterday by bringing one man to come as Labour presidential candidate. But as them they close on PO, another door is opening. Hashtag New Nigeria is possible. Now, about the story in Ozoro about the Alu Edo Festival, there have been comments on YouTube. Prince Ajibade says the village head of Ozoro cannot exonerate himself from whatever happened in that village. All that talk about receiving phone calls from heaven, no hold water. And we see some other comments. Mokunye Chukwuemeka says the organizers should be made to face the law. Mr. Johnson says what took me by surprise is what was said, that this is not the first time this festival has been happening and nobody reported it. Nigeria police are not aware. Haha, that means some big men are in setting this up, because if it was never done in secret, then you can't tell me some authorities don't know about this. But unfortunately for them, the internet spoils business for them. As for those of you who say that I had mind to fill my tank up, just to clarify, we don't allow it go too far from F. Once it goes too far, you quickly go and top it up, because it's those that have mind allow it get to half tank. You just, once it goes small,
like
you top up again.
How do you, to even put it in that upper F, do you know what, that's some people's salary.
I put it in the upper F since. So once it just goes small, I just top them up, so that my mind will not, because I can't afford to buy
your mind will rest.
a full tank from the bottom. No, my dear.
Because I was going to ask you to cut soap for me.
I didn't have soap. All right, we'll talk some more about some of these stories. Let's give you a proper outlook as to what the conversations today on Breakfast Central will look like. This morning on Breakfast Central, our top stories will be expanding further on the Ozoro Festival assault, the public outrage, and we'll be getting a representative from the kingdom to speak with us. Petrol hits 1,332 per litre, again as Dangote raises price. The NLC demands power sector overhaul, rejects 6 trillion naira bailout. Staff, equipment shortage persists in Kogi State primary health care. We'll be reviewing the newspaper front pages as usual. Stay with us for all these and more on Breakfast Central. What was meant to be a celebration of culture and heritage has now sparked nationwide outrage after a festival in Ozoro, Delta State, allegedly degenerated into coordinated acts of sexual violence. Reports indicate that the event held on the 19th of March descended into chaos, with women and girls reportedly chased, stripped, assaulted by groups of youths in what eyewitnesses described as a systemic attack.
Investigations suggest that a lack of proper communication and official approval for the festival may have created a dangerous vacuum exploited by criminal elements, allegedly, who carried out the assault under the guise of tradition. The incident has triggered widespread condemnation from government officials, civil society groups, and rights advocates, in short, Nigerians, all insisting that no culture or tradition can justify violence against women. To discuss the implications and look into this situation, we're joined by the President General of the Ozoro Kingdom. Joining us this morning is Chief Berkeley Asaifa. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for joining us to speak on this.
Good morning, Nigerians, and good morning, Deltas.
Let's start off first with the festival. I think it would be good for Nigerians to understand what the festival is all about and what the intentions of the organizers of the festival were. That would help us with some form of clarity before we dig deeper into more questions.
It's okay. Thank you so much. I'm the President General for Ozoro Kingdom. I'd like to apologize, first of all, to Nigerians for that unfortunate incident that happened in my kingdom. It's not acceptable anywhere, and we have worked around the clock, to arrest those involved. First of all, let me make something clear. Ozoro is a big kingdom, and Ozoro is made up of 5 communities. Of the 5 communities, the last community is Oramudu. Of the 5 communities, they have their different festivals. But this time around, Oramudu decided to do their festival, and they did not take permission from His Royal Majesty. Royal Majesty is the traditional head of the kingdom. He is supposed to be put on no of any festival coming up. But the Oramudu community did not tell the President General, they did not tell the king. What they should know is Ozoro is now a university community, and the population of the town has grown so big. We have visitors living in Ozoro who don't understand the language, Isoko, now, usually students and workers. But they did deem it fit to tell the king and the President General of this festival. So what happened? They made an announcement in Isoko language in that community alone. The remaining 4 communities, announcements were not made, thinking Ozoro was 10, 20 years back. And what is the essence of this festival? It's a symbolic festival that entails the chief priest going to the farm of the farmer, the women, to pray for them to have a bountiful harvest, the planting season. Then secondly, to offer prayers to barren women that are married, not young girls, women that are married so that they can conceive. Those are the 2 prayers the chief priest is supposed to give to his people in Oramudu community. Not the whole of Ozoro Kingdom, just Oramudu community. But he went ahead, made an announcement without telling the chief, the traditional head of the kingdom, who would have advised that the announcement should be made in English language around the whole kingdom, not just his community, but they did not. That was what caused the mayhem, while setting, how will I say, some ladies who were not informed, had to enter that community, and some hoodlums had to attack them. The festival, as I said, is for married women looking for the fruit of the womb. Young girls, we are advised to stay away. They are supposed to lock themselves indoors. They are supposed to stay indoors. They are not supposed to come out, because the chief priest will not pray for young girls to have babies when they are not married. So the advice was, the advice has always been young women should stay out. Young women should stay, indoors, while the married women can come out, and, the chief priest will pray for them. That is just the custom of Aluedo Festival.
All right. Thank you very much for walking us through that. So if I heard you correctly, some of the things that was meant to have happened was the young women had to stay indoors, the married women should come out for the festival. You also said that they did not get approval from the king, and it's only one community, not the whole of Ozoro. And finally, there was a point that you made earlier that I should have taken note of that, escaped my mind. But another conversation that we've seen as well is the fact that we'll come to the restriction of movement. You know, there are those who argue that right now it's 2026. There's a right to freedom of, movement, and in some way, is there no possibility aren't we looking at it from the perspective that this is infringing on people's rights to movement? It's infringing on their ability to be able to, because right now, the world is a global village. People, like you said, there are students, there are people who are not from Ozoro Kingdom that live there. You said that they were not also informed in English language. So the question is, who then bears the responsibility for what happened?
Yeah, first of all, in the Ramudu community, we have a chairman, and we have the adjunct, that's the elders. We have the chairman of that community, who is supposed to liaise with the President General and His Royal Majesty. One, just like what you said, this is 2026, there's freedom of movement. The restriction was just for 3 hours, between the hours of 4 p.m. and 7 p.m., when the chief priest will be coming from the farmland. It's not the whole day. So the announcement what they made was young girls should stay indoors between the hours of 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. It's not for the whole day. I think it was an appeal, not, it was not by strict instruction that you must do. They said, no. The thing is that prayers are supposed to be offered to married women, not young girls. So young girls, if you know you are not married, we don't want to pray for you, stay indoors. You married women who are looking for fruit of the womb, or even the ones that have babies that are still looking for more, to come out and receive prayers from the chief priest. And Ozoro is more of a Christian community. I am a Christian, the king is a Christian, a lot of people are Christian. Not many people believe in this old festival. So it's just few women that we, be interested, who are not Christian, that will come out, not the entire women in the Ramudu community.
Okay. Now, Chief, at what point did you learn that there were incidents of assault on young women in your community, and what was the initial response of the elders in the community when videos started going round and viral that young women were being assaulted? What was the response of the leadership of the community?
Okay, at about 6:30, I have a student living with me, student of the Delta State, Southern Delta University, in my house. That was about 6:30. I know the students are on holidays, so she's spending holidays in my house. She called my attention that there was something going on, and she showed me a video that Daddy, look at what is happening in Oramudu community. I saw it, and I called the community chairman. He was telling me he will call me back, and I said, no, there is something I want to know. What is happening in your community? He now answered briefly that there was a festival going on. And I said, you are having a festival. Did you tell His Royal Majesty, or did you tell the President General? He said no. At that point, I called His Royal Majesty. He said he was not aware of the festival. Then when it comes to traditional matters, we have an Odiolubo of Ozoro Kingdom. I called the Odiolubo of Ozoro Kingdom. Did the Oramudu community ever meet you that they were having a festival? He said no. At that point, I had to call the area commander of the area commander, yes, of the area police command. And the area police command happens to be in that community. His office happens to be in that community. I told him I just saw a disturbing video. And I said, what video? And I said, there's something happening in Oramudu community. And I said, PG, move to that place. I am sending my men to assist you. So I quickly drove to Ramudu community, and before I got there, I saw policemen on ground. When I was there, I also called my local vigilante to, meet me at that particular spot where the incident happened. But before we got there, most of the hoodlums, has ran away from the spot. But we had a situation where a restaurant owner, that is a Stop and Shop restaurant, took in 2 female customers. They did not know that that type of festival was happening in that community. So I had to speak to the girls and had to put them in my vehicle and took them to their homes. That was what happened.
Okay, there have been reports that this is not the first time that women have been sexually assaulted. If you go on social media, there have been multiple accounts about the fact that this is not the first time that these women were assaulted. There's also reports about how actually this festival lasts for 7 days. Many have argued that the festival lasts as long as 7 days, in which these women are not meant to come out. How do you respond to that?
No. The Aluedo festival is for just 1 day. It's not for 7 days. The only festival we have that covers the whole of Ozoro Kingdom is a Rabiu festival that covers the whole town, the 5 communities, and that one is headed by His Royal Majesty, who takes charge, and the President General who provides logistics for that ceremony. Mind you, every community has his ESCO and elders, every community in Ozoro. But when it comes to the whole community, there is one festival that is called a Rabiu Festival, which covers the 5 communities. That is the only major festival that covers Ozoro Kingdom.
Okay, Chief. This is very important that we're having this conversation, and I'm sure that a lot of persons are watching now. So your clarification would help, and it will go a long way. So can you confirm to Nigerians that there hasn't been any incidents of such that has happened in the past where women have been, in quotes, raped, all in the name of this exact festival?
Never.
Can you confirm to us? Sorry.
Yes.
Yes. Can you confirm to us that women have never been raped as a result of this festival? That's my first question. Let me get your answer to that first.
Never. Never. Women, to my best of my knowledge, no woman was raped on that particular day. But women, I think 2-3 girls were molested. They were harassed. They were not raped.
So you're speaking about
so
the 19th of March, just to clarify. Previous
Yes.
years, what about the previous years?
Previously, I have never heard. I schooled in Ozoro Primary School, and I have never heard of a rape case in Ozoro Kingdom. Never.
Okay. So that we've taken note of that women have never been raped. And in this incident,
Never.
Can you also clarify that no one was raped in this incident?
I am 100% sure of what I'm saying right now, because I have worked with the police at the state level, the area command, and the division. No single girl was raped, but they were harassed and molested.
So when we say molestation now, the molestation, okay, I think we must have lost our guest's connection, the connection there. Well, Fortunately, we've lost the connection to Chief Beckley. So
I really hope
we
that
still
you
have a
have
few
him.
questions.
Yeah, I have
we
just
still have a lot of questions.
one
to ask.
important
So
question that I
many
needed to
questions
ask. I needed to ask one important question, which is the fact that culture is made for man and not man for culture. Shouldn't this now be a time for us to maybe review this culture? Here in Lagos, we know how when the environmental sanitation issue came up, they
Not
were
even
taken to court,
environmental
right?
sanitation.
It was environmental sanitation. They took
yeah.
them to court because it's restriction of movement. So there's the restriction of movement based on gender, which is some form of gender discrimination for women, saying, oh, as a woman, you shouldn't come out between so time and so time. Shouldn't we review that? That's one. Two, they say that it's a culture for married women who are looking for children, not single women. Again, that's is a bit somehow, because when you talk about infertility, it's not gender specific.
Exactly.
The man could be the cause of the infertility. So what happens?
Why single out just
We
women?
then further with practices like that, we further the stereotypes against women when it is, that when there's an issue with infertility, everybody just assumes the woman is the problem.
Let's join Austin Azu, our correspondent who has been on ground and has been following this story very closely. Austin, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Unfortunately, we were talking to a president of the Ozoro Kingdom, Chief Saifa, and network connectivity did not allow us to continue that conversation. But we did get some information from him. He said no one was raped. He can confirm that. And this is the first time this is happening in Delta State. You were on ground right from when the incidents did happen, and you've gone to different communities, you've spoken to different persons. Can you tell us what you found during the course of your investigation?
All right, good morning, gentlemen. Of course, the Ozoro's festival has dominated the media space for quite some days now. And obviously, one of the things that we have to do is to ensure that we're able to follow the story to the latter, to ensure that we're able to get across to the people concerned, particularly the victims themselves. Of course, yesterday precisely, we went to Ozoro Kingdom, where we met with the CP, took some journalists to Ozoro Kingdom, where he met with the traditional ruler and the local government chairman, and as well the victims themselves. But let me delve into the victims precisely. Of course, the victims narrated their harrowing experiences in the hands of these suspected hoodlums who took advantage of them on that fateful day, that's on the Thursday 19 March 2026. One of them recounted that on her way from her hostel, she was going elsewhere, and she was accosted by large numbers of youth who said, stop and drop and now again. So she was actually, harassed. And in course of her narration, she said that some of the boys were inserting their fingers in her body. They were pressing her bobs, pressing her buttocks, and so on. Just to, I don't know the words to use, but it was so disgusting. And one, according to her, that she told the young men that, please don't harm me. I'm on my flow. Please don't harm me. And they told the young girl that the young girl should bail herself with 10,000 naira. But the young girl said she does not have such amounts in her account. That the only amount she has in her account is 5,000 naira. They insisted. The girl said she has to transfer the whole money in her account to these boys who demanded that if she does not transfer that money, that they will rape her with the flow. Someone recounted how how her clothes were stored, how they inserted their hands, trying to insert their fingers into their private part, her balls, tore her clothes, and just it was so harrowing. It was a bitter experience. And even one has to recount that the trauma has affected her already. That it was even her mom who could even, pet her, pray for her before she could sleep, before yesterday when she came to the palace. And the narration goes on and on and on. And what the victims are crying for is justice. Beyond justice, they are equally demanding that yes, their valuables were carted away, their valuables were taken away from them, and they are calling on the relevant authorities to provide these valuables that were taken away from them. And the council chairman has assured them that, of course, that their valuables are taken away from them, that they will provide it, and not only that, that is going to bring professionals that would talk to them. Of course, based on the fact that most of them have been traumatized already, that they would talk to them to ensure they are able to calm them down so that they'll be able to continue their normal life. Because some of them, as it stands now, each time they remember the experiences,
the trauma, I can't imagine how
difficult for them to continue
Austin,
with.
please hold.
Yes,
let's have the Prince respond to us. He's connected with us. Sir, I believe you've heard the account Austin shared of the young woman who was on the bike, asked to be brought down, asked to pay money to be able to rescue herself, and then they invaded her private parts. How do you respond to this? Also, looking at the fact that we're in 2026, I did mention earlier, you said that these laws are for married women and not for married women who are looking for the fruit of the womb, who are looking for children. Doesn't that, again, further some of the stereotypes against women, that infertility is primarily caused by women? Because we know that the cause of infertility is not gender specific. Also, the restriction of movement. We talked about how, again, it's 2026. Should we, even if it's 3 hours, here in Lagos, there was a pushback against the deliberate restriction of sanitation by a court judgment. So shouldn't we be reviewing our laws? Culture is made for man, not man for culture.
Okay, let me come again. Yes, yesterday, the Commissioner of Police, Delta State, was in Ozoro for a fact-finding mission. And we were able to speak with some of the girls. I think there were 4 of them that were molested and harassed. The Majesty, His Royal Majesty yesterday promised that immediately after, let's say after this investigation, he's going to call a meeting of the communities, the 5 communities and the elders. Some of these laws should be reviewed. Some of these traditions and festivals need to be reviewed because this is 2026. Some of them have been on for 100 years, 50 years. Yes, a need to review some of this festival and how they are supposed to be organized. This henceforth. So we're looking forward to His Royal Majesty in the next few days. I know he promised calling the meeting. We'll talk to the elders of the other 4 or 5 communities that before you take laws into your hand, before you organize any festival, before you do anything in your community, make sure, 1, you take permission from me, make sure you take permission from the President General, make sure you tell the area commander of the police command, and because Ozoro is now a university community, make sure you write officially to the Vice Chancellor of the university.
All right.
Now, Chief, let's talk about, for so many people, this was their first interaction with Ozoro Kingdom, their first time of knowing that this kingdom exists, and it's sadly and unfortunate that it's been known for the wrongest of reasons. Now, my question to you is, you've talked about your interactions with the victims and, trying to talk to the village community, to the kingdom community to, look at this festival and rejig it. But what about the perpetrators? Has there been any known arrest? What's law enforcement doing? And also, will there be any kingdom-wide talk to sit down with the men of that kingdom and a sort of reorientation? Because for people, the festival is one thing, it's another thing to go ahead and molest and degrade women in such a fashion. It means there's a complete breakdown of moral order in that society. Is that something you're planning to do? To speak to the men of the community, the youths?
Yes. Let me say something here. I don't know most of those young boys, but I know the youth president, because the perpetrators of this crime are youths, are young boys who, between the ages of 15 and early 20s. We have a youth president who is young, who can identify some of these boys that did, this mayhem. We are looking at the videos, and we've been able to recognize one or two persons. Secondly, a girl transferred money into an account. I know the police, in their investigation, we tried to comb the owner of that account that the money was transferred to. The investigations are still on. And from one to one and from one to one, I know most of the criminals and the criminals and the hoodlums that carried out this ungodly acts will be arrested by the police. And the kingdom, we have sent our men, our youth, round. With our youth round.
Right. President General of Ozoro Kingdom has been a part of the conversation. Thank you very much for joining us. Unfortunately, there has been a network disconnection, but we have come to the end of the conversation with him, even though much later I'll be having the Delta State Police PPRO joining us, and he'll be explaining what the law has said, how the law has swung into action to ensure that there is justice for these women who have been assaulted. Austin Azu, thank you very much for joining us from Delta State and bringing updates regarding this. I believe that Joe has one more question for you.
Yeah, I mean, to Austin, right before you go, just kindly bring us an update concerning the security agencies, what they've done, because I know throughout the weekend you also worked closely, even before we would have the PPRO join us. Can you also highlight what the security agencies have done within that community, that area, to ensure safety and for people to be able to move freely?
Okay, first and foremost, when the incident happened on the 19th, which is on Thursday, the security agencies, particularly the police, have not been at the end of it. They have been at the forefront to ensure that the culprits, the suspects behind these dastardly acts against humanity, are brought to book. And of course, they swinged into action. And of course, the first arrest, they arrested 5 suspects. And thereafter, after a few hours thereabout, they arrested 11 more suspects, all put together. 16 more suspects have been arrested so far by the police to ensure that they are able to continue with their investigation. So they equally went to the scene of the crime, where most of the incidents happened at Oramudu quarters. And of course, they looked at the area, and if peradventure, if security will go by what they know how to do best, they will try to ascertain if that particular area has a CCTV camera, because there's a popular restaurant there. Of course, it's known as Stop and Eat and Continue Your Journey. So if they're able to get a footage from that area, that will equally aid their investigation as well. But from what the CP assured the victims, and of course that justice will be served, and assured residents of the student community that such incidents will not repeat itself in Ozoro and even most of the higher institution communities in Delta State. So I think that advice and that particular assurance will go a long way in assuring the residents of the community of their safety. Though the students are on holidays at this point in time, but however, once they return back from holiday, they should be able to have that assurance played back to ensure that those behind these actions are all arrested and prosecuted accordingly. But there's one particular concern raised by the local government chairman, that among those that have been arrested, that security agencies should do a thorough job to ensure that those who don't know anything about the crime don't go in for it. That is only those who are involved in the crime should bear the full wrath of the law.
All right.
Okay. So back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Austin Azu,
Austin,
for joining us. We also want to use this opportunity to thank the President General of Ozoro Kingdom, Bekele Asiafa, for joining us this morning. Thank you for your time, sir. And we look forward to seeing the... you've made a lot of promises about how justice will be served, the investigations that will be carried out, the arrests that will be made, and the sensitization that will happen around the kingdom. And we look forward to seeing that happen for the people of Ozoro. Thank you very much for your time, sir. We'll now go on a break. Let's share with you what's coming up next on Breakfast Central. Coming up next on Breakfast Central, NLC demands power sector overhaul, rejects 6 trillion naira bailout. Petrol hits 1,332 naira litre again.
That's massive.
As Dangote raises price. Governor Zulum visits Ngoshe, plans reconstruction, resettlement. I'll be bringing this to you in a moment.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. Nigeria's electricity crisis has deepened in recent weeks, with power generation falling sharply and widespread blackouts reported across the country. Data from the Nigerian Independent System Operator shows that generation has fluctuated between about 2,800 megawatts and 3,900 megawatts, far below national demand, largely due to persistent gas supply shortages affecting thermal plants. As of early days of March, only 8 out of over 30 power plants connected to the national grid were operational, highlighting the fragile state of the system. Power distribution companies have consequently resorted to load shedding, leaving homes and businesses with very limited electricity supply.
Amidst the worsening situation, stakeholders, including the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, have renewed calls for structural reforms, including the creation of a unified Ministry of Energy and opposition to a proposed bailout of power firms, arguing that the systemic inefficiencies rather than funding gaps are the roots of the crisis. Join us now to discuss this is public affairs analyst Nick Agule. A warm welcome to you, sir, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central this morning.
Thank you very much for welcoming me, and good morning to our viewers globally.
Now, Nigeria's power generation fluctuates below 4,000 megawatts due to gas shortages and other reasons. What does this say about the fundamental design of Nigeria's energy value chain, especially the dependency between gas and electricity?
We don't have power. That's just the truth. Nigeria does not have any electricity at all. And the reason why I say that is because I'm speaking to you currently from the United Kingdom. I'm speaking in London, and the United Kingdom has a population of 65 million, which is probably 25% of Nigeria's population. And the United Kingdom's land mass is also about 25% of Nigeria's. And the United Kingdom, as I speak this morning, is receiving 750,000 megawatts of electricity. So we can say the United Kingdom is a developed nation. They have been building electricity infrastructure way before Nigeria became independent. But I gave that figure so that we can begin to understand the quantum of electricity poverty in Nigeria. 750,000 megawatts for 65 million people. And you just mentioned the number, 4,000, probably 5,000 for 250 million people. So let's leave the United Kingdom and let's go and look at comparable nations. Brazil is a comparable nation. It can also be said to be our mate, even though they have progressed and left us in a lower class. Brazil has got a population similar to Nigeria's, 200 million plus. The electricity supply, as we speak today, is 150,000. I mean, if Nigeria was talking 50,000, we could say, yeah, we have a deficit, but we're talking 50,000. So we're talking 5,000, 4,000, sometimes 3,000, sometimes zero when the national grid goes down, something that has happened severally this year. So now, let's even leave Brazil. Let's come back to countries that we are clearly senior to. For instance, let's look at the United Arab Emirates, where our president visited this year. The United Arab Emirates, they've got 12 million people, just 12 million. And I mean, as we very well know, Lagos has more than 12 million people. So 12 million people in the United Arab Emirates are receiving 45 45,000 megawatts of electricity. 45,000. 12 million. If you cross over into Qatar, they are just 3 million. They are receiving 11,000. So I can continue. I can give you South Africa. I can give you Morocco. I can give you Libya. Any country that I mentioned. There is no country that has this kind of energy poverty that Nigeria has. How can we be talking about 4,000, 5,000 for more than 200 million people?
So
It's never been obtained anywhere in the world.
Why haven't we been able to take care of this since independence? I mean, Nigeria is going to be 62 years old this year, and we don't seem to have been able to fix our power issues.
So that's a very good question. It's a really good question. Why is it that, 65 years later, we're fixing this? Because if you look at a country like the United Arab Emirates that I mentioned, they got independence 11 years after we got ours. United Arab Emirates got independence in 1971. So why haven't we fixed this? So here are the issues. First, electricity was in the hands of government. It started with the Electricity Company, Corporation of Nigeria, and then it became NEPA, and then it became Power Holding Company of Nigeria. That was the government days. And in Nigeria, because of structural deficiencies, weak institutions and governance structures, it's not just electricity. Name anything that is in the hands of government is not doing well. If you name Nigeria Airways, it's gone. Name any of the government banks, they are gone. Name Nigeria Railways, see where it is. Name the refinery, see where it is. Name the steel plant, see. I can continue to name. Anything government is not doing well. The NNPCL, not doing well. So that was the first problem. Now, in 2013, the President Goodluck Jonathan's government decided that, okay, just like we did in telecoms, let us take electricity away from government and entrust it into the private sector. Because like telecoms, when it was in the hands of government under NITEL, we hardly saw phones. As at that time, telephone was a status symbol. You needed to be a big man to have a phone. For those who were old enough to know, I will be 60 on Saturday actually. So I was old enough to know. I looked for a phone to buy. I never saw a phone. There were all sorts of racketeering. So we knew what was happening in the telephones until the sector was handed over, totally liberalized, and the MTNs, the Econet, the Glows, and the Etisalas came in. And we see what the telecoms revolution has happened. So it is now taken for a given that we wake up every day, we switch on our phones, we are going to see signal. We switch on our data, and we're already on the internet. That was not the case when it was under government. So the Jonathan government now said, okay, fine, let's do to the power sector what has happened in the telecom sector. So in 2013, which was precisely about 12, 13 years after we had done the telecoms privatization, the Jonathan government decided that they also do the power sector privatization. But the problem, and this is the key problem, this is where the real issue is that the Jonathan's government privatization of the power sector was so structurally flawed that there's absolutely no way that the power sector in Nigeria will grow. And so that from that 2013, we have been pinned down. And how do I mean that the power sector privatization under the Jonathan government was structurally flawed? There are three layers in electricity industry: generation, transmission, distribution. So generation is just like our generators. They generate the electricity. But transmission is like the cable that takes power from our generator into our home. So if power is generated in Egbin, there in Lagos, there are a set of cables that will carry that power all the way to Abuja and sell it, carry it to Sokoto and sell it. That is transmission. And then when you now land that power in the market, like an Abuja market, then the distribution companies are the ones that will take that electricity from the transmission and now sell it. So distribution actually put that electricity into your premises. whether it is residential, commercial, or industrial. What did the good Lord Jonathan government do? They privatized generation. It's fine, no issue. They went and privatized distribution. Okay, fine. But they left transmission, a key sector, the one that will have to transport the electricity. They left it in the hands of government. And like I said before, anything got, in fact, I usually bet my pension. I say, I have my pension on the table. Can you show me anything that is being controlled by the government in Nigeria that is working well? I will say, come and carry my pension. So transmission company is not working. And it has become a bottleneck. So generation cannot increase output because there is no transmission as a vehicle to carry the power. And then distribution can only distribute what transmission has given them, since they don't generate their own power. So that is the first bottleneck. You privatize the sector, you left transmission in the hands of government, poorly funded, poorly managed, epileptic, can't carry the power. So by that alone, it means that privatization by the Jonathan government was dead on arrival. Now, going to distribution, even the little power that transmission is able to deliver to the distribution companies, 11 of the distribution companies around the country, they are unable to distribute the electricity because the distribution companies' licenses were awarded to companies that had no known history in the power sector. They don't have the money, they don't have the technical capacity, no managerial capacity, they don't have the technology. I, Nika Gule, as a citizen of Nigeria, took interest and went to the Corporate Affairs Commission. I paid my money and I obtained the filings of the 11 distribution companies in Nigeria. What I found was mind-boggling. Some of the distribution companies in Nigeria have share capital of 5 million naira. I didn't say 5 billion, 5 million. 5 million translated into dollars is $3,500. Nigeria government legit gave a license to a company that has only $3,500 to distribute power to 4 states. That is dead on arrival. So what can happen in terms of solution is Nigeria must go back to that 2013 privatization and overhaul it. And that's part of what the NLC is asking for. If we don't go back there and overhaul that flawed privatization, we can continue to talk about this power sector for the next 20 years. Nothing is going to happen. Because like I have just described now, in terms of the architecture, in terms of what is happening, because if you go to the distribution, do you know that because the distribution companies have not invested money to modernize and expand the distribution network, even the little power, these 4,000 megawatts we started with, when they give it to them, they reject it. Why do they reject it? Because they don't have the system to sell the power to the market. If they invested money, all of the problems that you are hearing them talk about, all of the problems will be solved by money. Because one of the first problems they will tell you is that they are stealing our electricity. You see, nobody will steal your electricity. In London here where I'm sitting, nobody can steal electricity here because we don't see the electricity cables. They are not visible. They are buried deep into the ground. If the distribution companies in Nigeria bury their cables deep into the ground, but that requires money to do, nobody will touch their electricity again. Number two, when it's breezy or it's rainy, power will not go off because it's insulated in the ground. Nobody can steal the cables. There is no vehicle that will knock down a pole and power will go off. In the same way, the distribution companies don't have money to buy equipment like transformers, cables, poles. I mean, for those of us who use power, every one of us can testify that if a transformer in your area has got burnt, you must put money together to buy it. That's the work of a distribution company. It's like, imagine you buy a bus and give it to a bus company who is not charging you money to carry you out. But that's lack of money. That's lack of competence. And what should now happen? Two things need to happen very quickly. Number one, the government needs to go back to transmission and unbundle it so that it will invite private sector funding into transmission to expand it.
All right.
And the government must go back and redo the distribution licenses. In fact, there's no point giving one distribution company a license to distribute power in 4 states. Give each state to a distribution company. But you know why? Let me just say this, then I will give way. Here in the UK, where I'm speaking to you from, there are 4 layers in the electricity sector. There's generation, there's transmission, there's distribution, and then there's retail. It means a distribution company delivers power to several companies, several retailers. And the retailers are the ones that are now selling the power to consumers. So it is possible that with a simple ring phone call, I can change my electricity distributor from company A to company B. What that means is that there's competition at that level. So the companies are fighting for the market. So there is no room for you to increase prices and not deliver power and things like that. People will simply just switch away from you. So these are the reforms that Nigeria needs to urgently do to unlock the power sector.
Thank you very much for explaining those reforms. And we hear you when we talk about unbundling Nigeria's transmission, our electricity transmission. But let's also talk about the band system. Can you share your thoughts and your sentiments regarding the band system that this current administration introduced, where Nigerians had to pay for different bands of electricity? Many have criticized it because, unfortunately, Band A is not even given as much power as it promised. And your thoughts about the current Minister of Power, who will be vying, reports have it that he's vying for office as a governor in his state, and so might have to step down. How would you analyze his time in office if we were to rate him as his potential of being governor by how he served as Minister of Power? How will he fare?
Talk about the second question before I talk about the first, because it is the second that has led to the first. That is the minister that has led to this banding system. So I talk about him. My view of Honorable Minister Adelabu, Minister of Power for Nigeria, is that he's one of the weakest ministers that President Buhari, President Buhari, may his soul rest in peace, President Tinubu has appointed. Mr. Adelabu does not know his left from his right. He's so clueless about the power sector, and for me, it really bothers my imagination to think that if President Tinubu had predicated his second term on giving us electricity, how could he have nominated the weakest link in his government and entrusted the critical power sector to that person? Because without electricity, the economy will never do well. Electricity is like blood. As I'm sitting here looking at me, I'm looking at you. Both of us have blood running in our blood vessels. Any one of us, once the blood is short, you will begin to see it immediately to manifest on us that this person is anemic. You don't have blood. So that is how an economy functions with electricity. How could President Tinubu appoint this man? This man is an accountant like myself, But you see, he is the wrong man for the job. Why is he a wrong man for the job? Anytime Minister Adelabu opens his mouth and is talking about electricity in Nigeria, he's always talking about tariffs, cost-reflective tariffs, money. Because he's putting on his accounting hat to talk that. Like I have described, you can clearly see that the electricity problem in Nigeria is not even the tariff, it's the output. Because let me just play back to telecoms. When MTN and Co came on board, they never bothered about tariff. They never even talked about tariff. They saw where the opportunity was. The opportunity was that Nigeria, a country of probably 100 million people as at that time, was just on 500,000 lines. So there were not enough lines to even go around 1 million people, leaving the other 99 million with no telephone. So what did they do? They invested their monies aggressively by expanding the infrastructure. So that's why they built base stations, they built towers, they built marine cables, they did all of that. They put their heads down, they developed the infrastructure. They put capital into the ground, and they grew telephone availability from 500,000 lines to 220 million lines as I speak today. So immediately they did that, it then means that even at a fraction of the tariff that Nitel was selling telephone for, these people are making money. For instance, let's say 500,000 lines. Let's, for the purpose of analysis, just say that they were selling 10 naira, they were making 10 naira every day per line. That would be 5 million naira. At 220 million lines, if MTN and Co are making 10 naira a line per day, is 2.2 billion, not 5 million, 2.2 billion. So even if they sell it at 5 naira, which is half of Nigeria's tariff, they will still make 1.1 billion. That's how you make money. So Minister Adelabu didn't understand that. I'm sure an engineer, a proper thoroughbred engineer, would have understood that to say, look, 4,000 megawatts, that's where the issue is, I'm going to attack it. And for him to attack it, he of necessity needed to deal with transmission and distribution that I have mentioned. And today, Nigeria would have been on our way. Already, we have capacity for about 11,000, 12,000. Of these 4,000 that you mentioned, we have capacity to actually deliver 12,000 megawatts. And the simple problem is that we don't have the money.
You've thoroughly explained what you believe should be done to empower our power sector. We hope that the government is listening. You said we should revert to unbundling transmission system in 2013. And we hope that the government is listening and we'll see how that plays out. Thank you very much for your time with us this morning.
Thank you.
So much.
All right. And happy birthday in advance. We hope you have a wonderful 60th.
Yeah, thank you so very much.
All right. We're going to break now. When we come back, we'll be bringing you more conversations. Please stay with us. The price of premium motor spirit, PMS, or petrol as you like to call it, at retail filling stations has risen to at least 1,332 naira per litre nationwide, following a fresh upward review by marketers in response to the latest hike by the Dangote Petroleum Refinery. The development underscores the nation's continued exposure to the global oil crisis and external energy market shocks, despite its status as a leading crude oil producer. Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Petroleum Resources Downstream, Ikenga Ugochinyere, has alleged that Nigerian crude is being sold to Dangote Refinery and others, though middlemen based in London, United Kingdom, and Dubai, United Arab Emirates. We also saw that, speaking to press last Thursday, he noted that the Dangote Refinery pays an extra $18 for every $100 barrel of Nigerian crude it buys through intermediaries, stating that the country would soon face fuel and diesel scarcity if nothing is being done to address crude supply constraints to the $20 billion worth of Dangote Refinery.
Well, according to data compiled by Investor Site, referencing global petrol prices, Nigeria petrol price levels have jumped by 39.5% since February 23, 2026. This sharp fuel price increase in Nigeria places the country second globally behind Vietnam, where prices surged by 50% within the same time frame. Joining us now is Professor Emeritus of Petroleum Resources, Professor Wumi Ledare, if I got that right. Thank you so much for being here, and good morning to you.
Well, good morning, and thank you again for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
The last time you joined us, I think we were buying petrol for lesser than almost 700 and something naira back then. But today, it's almost double the price at 1,333 naira. Many are saying it's going to get to 1,500, especially with the war raging on in Iran. Can you share with us, first of all, I'd like to know the truth from your aspect. Is it true that if all our refineries were working at optimal, speed, we will still buy fuel or petrol at the current price that we're buying now? Or if they were working, it would help to at least manage the shocks that's coming from the international or global oil prices, whereby Nigerians wouldn't buy fuel the exact amount they were buying today?
Again, that's a legitimate question. And I don't want to come here and say that I do not understand the pain of having to pay more than you used to pay for a commodity. But believe you me, that is the law of demand and supply. It's fundamentals. The market in the future and the market in the present, they are connected, and there has to be some reaction to the current market until the market settles. There are two dimensions. I know you mentioned a figure, 39%. You have to decouple it. One, what proportion is coming from imported crude and what proportion is coming from the local crude. In that case, you have two things that are driving the market today, or three things. One is the foreign exchange rate, which is coming down. And then the second is the price of crude, which is coming up, which is going up. So the dominant factor driving the price of petrol at the pump today in Nigeria is the price of crude oil. And that's the same thing all over the world. Now, when you look at percentages, you are thinking in terms of the base. So it depends on the base where you are starting from. That's what it seems that it is 39% higher. Now, even if we have full refining capacity, unless we have the local crude to feed it, global market will still have impact on us. This is my positive, optimistic thinking. And it's not theoretical, that's reality. There will come a time in which the price will be coming down the way it is going up, even though not asymmetrically. And that's the way the market works. The US have full capacity of refining. The US produce more crude per day than any other country in the world. And yet, the price of petrol has gone up on average from 290 something to almost 390 something. That is the way the market works. We have moved away from setting prices administratively. The market is in control through what we call the invisible hands. And it works both ways when the crude price is going up and when the crude price is going down. I want to plead with Nigeria to adjust their consumption pattern based on their level of income, and you are going to see the reaction of the market as well. No guarantee margins for the sellers, and that's where we are now. I hope that helps a little bit, but I understand the pain.
All right, thank you very much for explaining that. There have been claims as well about the crude being routed through intermediaries, adding cost before it even gets to local refineries. Does this suggest a deliberate distortion of the domestic market and, not just a case of inefficiency here?
Well, I try not to react to speculation. If the National Assembly or the executive arm of the government is sure that there are certain people that are trying to manipulate the market, this is where the vigilance of the regulator comes in. Who are those players in the market that are making the market anti-competitive? Fish them out. The law is there to sanction them. Whether we have the capability to do that or not is a different thing. But let me say, for those playing in the market, including the taxi drivers and the Uber people, there are four important things that every citizen must pay attention to. One is efficiency of the market. Two is the effectiveness of the market. Three is the ethical behavior of the participants. And four is what I call equity. Listen, it is all of us that are placed in the market, and all of us must play in the market appropriately. Efficiency without ethics is inconsequential. Effectiveness without equity cannot allow the market to function and add value. We must close all the efficiency, but we must realize that the current market situation is not diverse or divorced from the future market. If there's any fear that petroleum product will be difficult to have in Nigeria, more consumption today will be allocated to tomorrow, and the only signal is the price of petrol. I want to plead with us to avoid going back to do things that we did in the past that brought us to this place.
And Prof, what are some of
suggestions?
Yes, Prof, what are some of those things we did in the past that brought us to this point? Because some are saying, you know, the government can't leave us to external shocks, that there has to be some sort of absorber. Some have even advocated for the return of some limited type of subsidy.
No, I will not suggest we go to subsidy, because that is what brought us to where we are with our exchange rate that exposed us to external shock in a bad way. The first thing I think we need to do is to avoid going back. The second thing we need, going back to subsidy. The second thing we need to do is to tidy up the leakages. We must stop guaranteeing margin to people selling petroleum products. 3, we need to look at whether there are certain things that are tied to petroleum product in terms of taxes, like value-added tax, like import duty. All of those things the government can take away for a short period to reduce the shock. Third, which I think the government is trying to do, alternative to petroleum, or rather what I call complementary transportation fuel. The government is trying with CNG, but LPG is actually preferred to CNG as a transportation fuel. And finally, there's nothing wrong in public transportation. The society must think in terms of conservation. A gallon of petrol that is not consumed today is available for consumption tomorrow. And finally, if I can suggest, the society must have a change in mindset. The price of petroleum product is no longer administratively set. It is market determined. And all of us must work towards making it to work. Keep import license open, but you do not necessarily have to import. And that's what we call a contestable market. As long as the players in the market come to term with the fact that other people can join, they will not allow the petroleum product to go too high. That is the role of the government. And that's where competency comes in. That's why we continue to advocate for professional development in the Petroleum Authority and the Petroleum Commission. They must be at par in the competency level with the players. So this is what we need to think about. We must promote efficiency, effectiveness including open up the other sources of petroleum products to Nigeria. You don't necessarily have to go. And that becomes a bargaining power to be able to get pressure on local refiners to bring the price of petroleum products down. You cannot use international market to price your domestic market.
And that's the same question everyone is asking, because if we keep using international market to price domestic market, then what's the need for us, especially Nigerians, when we are blessed with crude and all of the natural resources? Yet, Nigerians are still finding it hard. But I know you have an answer to that. Let me just add to that question very quickly, Professor. You mentioned alternative sources. I mean, CNG, LNG. Nigerians prefer LNG because the CNG that was mentioned and provided by the very government seems not to have been adopted by many Nigerians, and we do not have a lot of filling stations that are offering services concerning CNG. Very little. So how do we deal with that?
Well, let me answer your first question.
Please go on.
Crude oil. You have a dilemma. You want add currency, and you want economic development. Add currency, which is dollars and pounds, will not develop your economy, and it has been proven so. Hey, listen, I came from Abuja to Benin to Warri. I was almost tempted to go back to Abuja before coming to Warri from Benin. I just wanted to feel what other people are saying. You have no infrastructure. You should have used your money in the past to develop infrastructure, and you will not be having the problem that you have today. But what did you do? You're using oil money to govern year after year because of that. So infrastructure is the key. And that's why some of us are suggesting this is an opportunity. Government will make some money, use it for infrastructure development, and the demand for petrol will go down because you have good roads. And as a result of that, you will see a decrease in price. If supply is concerned, demand is down, the equilibrium price will go down. Infrastructure is the best way to use your oil and currency. Second, let me tell you, the fact that you have crude oil does not mean price will be cheap. Go to the US, they have 42 to 45 billion barrels of oil. And yet, when the price of crude goes up, the price of petroleum product goes up. Nigeria must get used to this. There are more important things to subsidize, if I can use the word, than subsidize burning money in your tailpipe. Whoever wants to burn money, travel, must be willing to pay for it. Subsidize education. That's why you have people like me being able to talk to you at this level. I never paid for school fees from secondary school to Doctor of Philosophy, my discipline. And so many are like me. Let's think about that.
I was trying to get to that point where you said, infrastructure is key. Whenever
it's very
you
key.
Take these monies, use it to, build.
Because everyone seems to be on the road, and aviation fuel, the cost of alternative transport means are so expensive. It's something we should have done in a long time. Yeah, but do we have Professor Iledare back online?
Thank you very much, Prof, for joining us. I don't know if he's connected with us, but thank you very much for sharing with us the updates. Yes, thank you very much, Professor Iledare.
Yes, but before we go, just one final question for Prof.
I think his network is that.
I mean, we have to look at the prognosis for the future.
Okay.
The Houthis are threatening to shut down the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. President Donald Trump has issued an ultimatum to the Iranians to, reopen the Straits of Hormuz, and we might see this situation escalate. What happens if the Bab el-Mandeb Strait is blocked and we don't see a de-escalation in the Iran war?
I'm on TV, but I won't take Trump's word for what he says. But of course, the market will react. If he actually goes ahead and bomb, then of course the global market will react and go up. And then when the price of crude oil goes up, you are under a market dynamics in Nigeria, and the world is a global village, and the news cycle can create speculation, and we see the need to allocate more petrol to the future, even in Nigeria, and the price will go up. And this is where now we need to think. Crude price volatility is inevitable. Nigerian petroleum policy cannot fail.
Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us, and thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. We'll wait and see, and Nigerians will continue to look up, as usual, in a usual fashion, to, look up to those in power and also look up to the one who created all of us, hoping that things would indeed find its way or meander
Hope is not a
its way.
strategy.
Well, it's what we usually do. Meander its way to a solution. But thanks for your time, Prof. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for joining us, Prof. Iledare.
Well, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for the interrogation. And my best wishes. The future is brighter than what it seems.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we of course did promise earlier that we'll be bringing you updates regarding the issue of sexual assault in Delta State, and we're joined by the police PRO in Delta State, Bright Edafe. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. We'd like to please start with asking the latest update on the police investigation into the sexual violence at the Ozoro Festival.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Yes, for now, we have 16 suspects in custody. 5 was initially arrested, then additional 11 was arrested, having viewed and done some intelligence work on the footages that were all over the internet. We now have 16 suspects in custody. Then the Commissioner of Police and Management team, including the DCP operations and myself, we went to Ozoro yesterday, being Sunday, met with His Majesty, the local government chairman, the President General of the community, then the student body, which includes 4 of the victims that were sexually assaulted by these hoodlums that call themselves youths. It's quite unfortunate. We are still on the lookout for them. The local government chairman gave a marching order to the community youth leader to ensure that these boys who are presently at large should be fished out, handed over to the police to face the consequences of their action.
Okay. Can you also confirm to us that the ones who have been apprehended by the police, they are currently undergoing investigation? That's one. Secondly, the victims, can you also share with us what has been done to them?
All right. The 4 victims were interviewed yesterday. I would want to also use this opportunity to reiterate that we do not have any complaint, not one single complaint of rape for now. From the 4 victims, they said they were assaulted, they were harassed sexually, but they were not raped. So for now, we do not have any suspect that we are charging for rape. But for the sexual assault complaints that we have, based on witnesses available and the video evidence, the suspects are in our custody. The CP ordered almost immediately for them to be transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department. They are apparently with us here at the state headquarters. Investigation is ongoing and they will be arraigned in a court of competent jurisdiction as soon as possible.
Now, Mr. Edafe, you've been a Delta State PPRO for quite some time, and many people are shocked that this incident happened this year. Was it a one-off, or have you been getting reports of this sort of sexual harassment? And also, what was the police's response time when this call was made, distress call?
It was a one-off thing. It was a one-off thing. What we were having in the past, yes, there are festivals that they will say women should not come at. But in the past cases, there's always this mature leader that is with the masquerade. When they see a girl, they can say, go back, go inside. There are even some where even myself in Asabaya have been blocked before. Say, this masquerade, you are not even supposed to see it. Go and hide somewhere until the masquerade passes. That's the highest point. They will just tell you to hide somewhere you are not supposed to see. But in this case that happened, these hoodlums just hijacked the whole process and start taking advantage, molesting girls. It is not in the character of Delta State. It has never happened before. These hoodlums just wanted to carry out their nefarious activities in the guise of saying, they were having a festival. And that is why they are presently with us. It was a one-off thing. It had never happened before now. And also that festival, some sections of social media that are saying, it's a festival of rape. There's nothing like festival of rape in Delta State. There's nothing like festival of rape in Nigeria. And I'm not sure there's anything like festival of rape in the whole continent of Africa. However, it was a festival that was meant to cleanse and pray for barren women. It's quite unfortunate that the victim in this case now happened to be young girls. It's very, very sad, and that's why the CP has assured that everybody arrested will definitely be brought to justice. And we are not stopping there. We are still analyzing the video evidences we have, to get more suspects. They are presently at large because they know their videos are everywhere, but we definitely get them. The local government chairman gave a marching order to the youth leader of the community yesterday to ensure that they get those boys from their hiding places. As for response time, you and I know that it's virtually impossible for the police to be everywhere at the same time. And that is why we always solicit for information. We always ask for timely information so that we do our deployment on time. But these people, for reason best known to them, did not even inform the head of that is their traditional ruler. Their Royal Majesty was not even informed. The school community, that is the school management, was not even informed, and the police was not informed. But when we got the distress from one of the restaurant owner there in Ozoro, that look at what is happening, we deployed our men almost immediately. Where you are seeing those footages could be places where our men were not able to get to on time. But our men were deployed, local vigilantes were deployed, community leaders were also deployed, and that was why we were able to nip it at the bud.
All right, Mr. Edafe, as a law enforcement agent that you are, I'd like you to respond to critics who push back on this culture. First, because it further stereotypes, it further strengthens the stereotype against women that infertility is primarily caused by women. When they say that the festival is to, pray for barren women, we know that infertility can either be from the woman or from the man. That's one. Two, when the culture says that, you're not allowed to move around for a certain hour because you're female, that also speaks to discrimination. How do you respond to this?
Well, you and I know how it is in Africa with custom and tradition. You and I know, and it's always very, very difficult to interfere with. The real issue is when these girls, due to lack of information, defy this order, what is the solution? The solution can never be what happened that day. And that is why traditional rulers must come together and enlighten their youth. The highest thing that should be done is go back. Go back. It has happened to me in the past, like I said earlier. And despite who I am to be in Delta State, I comply. I'll go and stay somewhere until pass. But to now come and start assault me is not the way to go. This is why traditional rulers, community parents need to talk to these youths to behave themselves, because we are not in a zoo. We are not in the animal world where no law. In Nigeria, there are laws, and we enforce it to the end. And that is why people are presently with us. But to interfere with the custom and tradition of some of these communities, not just in Delta, in every state in the country, it will be very difficult. However, the solution to this problem is not to sexually assault or physically assault anybody.
Well, I would assume that the solution to the problem might be to review what certain customs and traditions are. Section 42 of the Constitution talks about, the right to freedom from discrimination. There's the right to freedom from personal liberty. I can go on to list how many rights have been violated just by what happened on that day. Culture was made for man, man wasn't made for culture. But my final question would be to you and your response to many of the critics who argued that your response to Rino Oduala was was trivializing the issue and that was connoting sexual innuendos.
It is well. But why I'm worried is that nobody is talking about what Rino said to me, and it's very sad, because police too are human beings. Rino's statement to me was very clear. It was a very clear insultive statement. My statement was not insultive. My statement was only sexualized by Rino. Nobody is talking to her, everybody is talking to me, and it's very, very sad because, like I said, police too are human beings. It was Rino who sexualized my statement. I never sexualized that statement. It was the same Rino who insulted me. Nobody is talking to her, and it's very sad. That's the way it is. However, because my statement was misinterpreted, that was why I had to take it down. And that's what there is to it. I never made a sexual statement to her. The word is there for all to see what it means. If she sexualizes it or she gives it her own meaning, well, she has right to her own opinion. However, the fact that she insulted me and nobody is talking to her at all is actually very sad.
Okay, SP Edafe, just to follow up on that, what you said was, whenever I issue a statement, it turns you on. Why, if I may ask? And we were speaking in the general context of rape, and some felt that was insensitive. That's the statement there on our screen. The fact that you deleted it, does it mean you regret making that statement and you've withdrawn that statement?
Obviously, we hold allegiance to Nigerians. If Nigerians believe that, oh, the statement was out of line, there's nobody that cannot come back to them and say, okay, I think I need to take it down. And that was why I did it. But for Rinu, I don't owe any explanation. She insulted me, and she should also be asked questions.
Okay, all right. I think we've been able to glance through that. So maybe we'll leave the ball on the court of Nigerians. And you've said that Nigerians have actually spoken, so that made you retract that statement. But I just want to go back to the issue at hand, which is the ladies who were actually molested, and also the thugs, as it were. Can you clarify that the people who carried out these acts are thugs, miscreants within the Ozoro community, or they are indigents of the Ozoro community? I think it's very clear that I think, and again, there was a video that was circulating that really broke my heart on that day. Young children under the ages of 10, they were walking around the streets, and someone was asking them, where are you guys going? They said, we're looking for women to molest. Is the police putting up any security barricades around that community to protect and prove that you are after the protection of every indigent? Following, that's the video there. Unfortunately, we cannot play the audio because it is completely horrible to hear. So what is the police doing to ensure that they can show to the indigents that they are now safe and they can come out and go about their way? So those are two questions. First of all, are they indigents, or are they just thugs as a name that has been tagged to them to prove that they are not indigents? And secondly, what is the police doing right now to secure and give the people some form of security?
From the 16 suspects we have, some are indigents, some are not. However, the youths who went about assaulting girls were not even part of those carrying out the traditional rites. They were not part of it. They are hoodlums, they are criminals, and they will be treated as such. What was supposed to be traditional rites, at least the festival, and what these boys did, they do not align. The traditional ruler is not in support, the president general is not in support, and they have been helping us to identify and fish out these suspects, and we are going to deal with them in accordance with the law. As for confidence building, even though the issue was dying down, the CPC took it upon himself yesterday to go to Ozoro physically. We were there, we left at about 7 a.m., we were there before 9, and we left there at about 4 to 5 p.m. So it was a very long deliberation. We went through Ozoro towns, we tried to ask questions. I think one of your correspondents was there with us to ensure that we let them know that we are here and guarantee them that it will not repeat itself again. People will learn from this. For the fact that we've arrested and we are still arresting more, people will learn. As for those kids who were making those statements, I think we are losing it as a people. We have serious parental decadence. Parents are not doing their job. I keep saying it. A lot of people will say police, police, police. Even these policemen you have seen, including myself, we are from homes. Somebody once said, if you have a child and you do not train that child for 18 to 20 years, it comes and joins the police for 6 months, and you expect the police to rebrand that child in 6 months. You are it's an uphill task. So parents should do their job. Children were supposed to be at home and say they are looking for girls to go and assault. It's very, very sad. I really hope that we'll come together as a people and decide to do the right thing.
All right. Thank you so much, PPRO Bright Adafi, for speaking with us. And please do well to keep us posted. Our correspondent is there with you. I will also look forward to invite you again, maybe in the next 5 days to come, to get an update on what has happened to those who have been apprehended by the police, because we must ensure that justice is indeed reached on this case. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at one of the biggest town halls that will be holding somewhere not far off from, maybe you could say, Ozoro community. But this time we're talking about Delta State. So do us a favor, stay here with us. We'll talk about all of these and more.
How does a country that produces oil become this vulnerable when oil routes are disrupted? Because today the world is dealing with the fallout from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical transit routes on the planet. Nearly 20% of the world's oil passes through this narrow channel. Now it's disrupted. And once again, Nigeria is feeling the pain. In March alone, petrol prices have changed multiple times, not over months, just over days. Prices have soared to as high as 1,300 per litre across the country. Transport fares have risen. Food prices are climbing once again. Businesses are struggling to stay afloat. And the average Nigerian left to absorb yet another shock. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The crisis may be global, but Nigeria's vulnerability is entirely local. Other oil-producing nations prepare for disruptions like this. They build strategic reserves, they refine domestically, they deploy price stabilization mechanisms. Nigeria will react, will scramble, will adjust policy on the fly while citizens pay the price. Because if we had a functioning refining system, if we had real energy security, if we had a coherent plan, the closure of the shipping routes thousands of kilometers away would not immediately translate into suffering in Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, or anywhere else across the country. But instead, we're exposed, dangerously exposed. Nigeria exports crude oil, but imports refined fuel. We produce energy, but cannot control its price. We earn from oil, but cannot shield our people from oil shocks. That is not just an economic contradiction. It's a failure of planning. And now with global tensions escalating, experts are warning that petrol prices could climb even higher if the disruption persists. So the question becomes urgent. How long will we remain at the mercy of global events we cannot control? When will we build the buffers, the systems, the infrastructure that protect Nigerians? Because at this rate, it's not just fuel prices that are unstable, it's the entire foundation of economic certainty. And if it continues, then every global crisis will remain a Nigerian disaster. Good morning, Nigerians.
Very interested which way Nigeria there. Let's move on to our next story now and tell you that stakeholders in Asaba are set to converge on New Central's town hall meeting focused on addressing the realities facing persons with disabilities and so on. Now, this comes as calls for more inclusive policies and practical solutions across the country continue to grow. Now, let's tell you about the theme for the town hall. Sympathy to solutions for disability in Nigeria is also one of the focus. But then again, we'll also look at what the town hall will be all about. We'll bring together government officials, civil society groups, and members of the disability community to examine key issues such as accessibility, employment, and social inclusion, while pushing for stronger policy implementation and improved quality of life for persons living with disability, and not forgetting to Nigerians in general. Well, this morning, we'll be discussing the issues that are outlined at the town hall meeting holding this Thursday, the 26th of March in Asaba, Delta State. We're now joined by Professor Vincent Anyobogu, renowned educator and Director General, Institute for National Transformation. He joins us live from our Abuja studios. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us, Professor. Let's start off first by getting your thoughts on preparation for the new Central Town Hall. This will be one very interesting conversation that will actually be centered on Nigerians and looking at complete or case of inclusivity. Can you tell us, how is Nigeria doing when it comes to inclusiveness, especially with people living with disabilities, Nigerians, socioeconomic standing and the likes?
I must say that we have done quite a bit, but not enough. And what we're trying to achieve is to bring this issue to the forefront, where deliberateness is incorporated in our policy framework. For example, there are over 1 billion people globally that live with disability. Many of these are excluded from education, employment, and the innovation ecosystem. And the challenge is that if now that we're entering an era of innovation, science, technology, and innovation, if inclusiveness is not deliberately built into that, then exclusivity will be digitized and the gap will be widened. And that's why we are raising this concern now, so that as we move into the era of innovation and technology, the needs of the persons with disability in our midst are factored in by design, not by accident. Absolutely. And as I said, Nigerian government has done quite a lot in the area of education inclusivity. That is not enough. And if the gap is not bridged, then they're going to be even further excluded. And that's why we want to have this town hall meeting on Thursday.
Now, Prof, it's often said that the country is judged by how it treats its most vulnerable people and its human development indices. Despite the Discrimination Act Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act 2018, enforcement gaps remain widespread. Why is this so in Nigeria? Why haven't we made a lot of progress with regards to this?
I think we must realize that many people are actually ignorant of the situation. They have not been sensitized enough. Also, traditional mentality has much to do with this. So in order to bring them to the know, they need to be helped. They need to be assisted. And that's why TAF Africa is carrying the flag of sensitizing not just the public, but even top government officials of what they need to know, so that they can move away from a welfare approach to inclusivity to capacity and productivity. In other words, these are members of the society that can be capacitated, and they will be a contributing community in our national economy. But it requires deliberateness. We need to move from compliance to what I call co-creation, where they become participatory in the creation of national economy. We need to sensitize them to move from accessibility as an add-on, something that's an afterthought, to move into a universal design, whereby in the design of every facility, in the design of every curriculum, even in academia, the needs of these minority group in our midst are factored in. Again, it requires sensitizing, training them, and also helping them to know how to not just frame the policies, but even how to execute them. In other words, they need help, and TAF Africa is here to provide that help.
All right, Prof. Let's talk about what the real picture of inclusivity would look like. Many accessibility audits show that only a small fraction of public buildings and political spaces are truly accessible to people living with disabilities, including ramps or tactile signage. You go to certain financial service institution, you only see the steps, you're not. So we can start to explore what the buildings in our country look like, and you see that a huge number of them are not as inclusive as they should be. So how do we hold them accountable? What specific mechanisms should be put in place to track compliance and then penalize institutions that fail to meet accessibility standards?
Excellent question. I always believe that before you penalize anybody, you should first teach them. After you teach them what they should do, the next thing you should do is be with them to ensure they know how to practice what you have taught them. When they now refuse to apply what they have been taught and corrected, then that's the time you can punish them. So what we are planning to do is to make sure that these different stakeholders, these different sectors of the society are properly sensitized so that they know what to do. For example, we have to help government to move from just policy declaration to enforceable standards. But we must first set the standards and everybody know about it. We have to move from embedded disability in our policies, move towards adding it as part of the science, technology, and innovation policy. So there's a lot of education that must go on, training these different sectors, the engineers, the architects, sensitizing them. So during the time of framing, either policy or designing buildings or even developing curriculum in the university level, they have to have been sensitized so that it is incorporated in the original design. If you don't do that, then you have to come back later and make it an add-on. And of course, add-on never really meets the original design. So there's a lot of things that different sectors must be sensitized. For example, academia must learn to integrate inclusive design into STEM, science, technology, innovation, and mathematics. Some of these disabled people are not disabled mentally. They can handle some of these top subjects.
Absolutely.
But they have to be helped ab initio. So what TAF Africa is now trying to do is to sensitize every sector of the society, what they can do, and incorporate it in their policies. So ab initio, the needs of these different groups are being met. But we can't penalize until we have sensitized, trained them before we now enforce.
Now, Prof, civil society advocates often highlight that inclusion is still more symbolic than substantive in Nigeria. You've highlighted quite a number of things during the course of our conversation this morning. What are some of the prominent issues faced with people living with disabilities, and how can we genuinely move from visibility to participation, ensuring that PWDs are not just present at tables, but meaningfully involved in decision-making process? How do we move from the theory to the practical, to the reality?
Well, the truth is that many of these our brothers and sisters have been culturally stigmatized. Even you and I, to some extent, are struggling with that. So we need to have a mindset shift that helps us to recognize that these are special people. They may be disabled physically to some extent, but they are still human beings, endowed with intelligence, endowed with other gifts. We just have to work harder to see how to help them to become contributory aspect of community in our nation. So cultural reorientation is a must, so that we, in some areas, for example, persons with albino are treated as outcasts. Some of you may have experienced them even in your communities. We need to change that. So there needs to be a cultural reorientation to even accept them as bona fide members of our community. Then the second step is to know that they can contribute constructively in the development of our nation and our economy, our community. We now do an assessment to know the competencies, the abilities they have that can still be used, and then frame training curriculum and also policies to ensure that they are given fair chance. And I think government entities must play a central role in ensuring that what they deserve, the space they deserve, the the enablement that they deserve so that they can be equipped and they can contribute, the government must move into that space and make sure that everybody gives them that opportunity. So it's going to be a journey from cultural reorientation to assessment to empowerment, and then giving them the opportunity. It's going to be a journey. Obviously, it's not going to happen in one day. But once we start that journey, I know God will help us that one day, no single one of them will be discriminated against when they have the potential to be a contributing member of our community. That's our prayer.
Okay, Prof. Can you quickly help us by spotlighting some of the key discussions that will be had, especially at the town hall come Thursday?
Well, one of the things we want to do is to sensitize every stakeholder what they need to do, what they need to stop doing, so that we can move from just talking to doing. And as I said before, number one, we want to remind government that they must stop, they should move from just policy declaration to enforcement standards. That's critical so that everybody understands what is expected of them, and they know that not abiding by those standards will attract penalty. The academia, we want to encourage them to integrate inclusive design, especially STEM, and even TVET curriculum into the needs of the persons with this disability. They can be useful members. Let's find a way to bring them in and to participate. So universities can do what we call assistive technology labs. What equipment can we design to help them be more effective? That can be a branch of research that the universities can initiate. In the private sector, especially industries, they must start doing things differently. For example, they should shift from just corporate social responsibility as something you do once in a while into inclusive business plans. What kind of business can we design targeting persons with disability? What kind of investment can we make, especially in the design of these assistive tools that will enhance their performance? Businesses can invest in that. So we're trying to, again, achieve what we call a complete mind shift, the way we look at persons with disability. The innovative ecosystem can find a way to get them involved in designing solutions using human-centered, inclusive designs. We can get them involved in AI. There are things they can use AI as a tool to do. So every sector of the society must begin to rethink how they look at persons with disability and intentionally think about how to include them so that as we move into the digital age, they are not left behind. That gap does not widen. That's what our conversation will be centered on.
Right.
Innovative inclusion of persons with disability.
Thank you so much. I think that is important, the conversations that you've highlighted, because we must not see it as a social imperative or, an option. It has to be a part of our policies. People living with disabilities have to be involved. It's not a favor to them. So thank you very much for what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you for joining us, Professor Vincent Anyanwu.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, don't forget that the News Central Town Hall will hold this Thursday in Delta State, and we'll be looking at people with disabilities as well. We just spoke to the professor, renowned educator and director, General Institute for National Transformation, Professor Vincent Anyanwu, who just spoke to us on that topic. Tomorrow, we'll have another guest who will join us at exactly 9 o'clock hour to look into the Town Hall series that will be held in Delta State. But now, let's bring to you the front pages of the newspapers very quickly and see what the papers are indeed saying. Welcome back. Let's look at the front pages of the newspapers very quickly on a Monday morning. Let's start with Al Jazeera, Nigeria. That's our first paper. On the front page there, it says, Power Generation, NLC, rejects proposed 6 trillion naira bailout. Says, we cannot continue to deploy public funds to sustain a fundamentally flawed system. What do you think? What say you? Another one, GSD 2026, lack of multi-sectoral approach, bane of surviving development in Nigeria, NIS president says. But there are some other stories just under there on the paper. There it says NDLEA intercepts opiates, meth in winter jackets, cream at Lagos Airport. Okay, page 13. In Ondo State, police arrest 21-year-old man for alleged rape, murder of elderly woman. Oof. You find that on page 9. On page 8, power grid instability worsens as Genco's gas debt mount. It worsens, truly. You can call us and let us know what power is like in your area. So go ahead and dial the number you'd find on the screen shortly. Also in the news, very quickly, to my right, support groups endorse Tinubu for second term, offer prayers. That's on page 2. We also have page 5, Shetima briefs Tinubu on Maiduguri explosions. Page 5 as well. We also have another story there. Insecurity. Federal government intensified efforts to secure citizens, says the minister. First Lady condemns assault on women at Ozoro Festival. And Ebonyi Disability Association demands commission. That's Ebonyi Disability Association. We just talked about disability not too long. So it shows that it has to be a national conversation. But that's all you have on the front page of the Al Jazeera. One big story to look into here on the front page is that which has got to do with page 8. Power grid instability worsens as Genco's gas debt mount. Meaning that we should expect
and that's more reason why they need that bailout that NLC is rejecting, so that they can pay some of these debts and then we can have power.
And then we go back to it again.
But it will be a case of Moses, because the power minister will not see the promised land when we finally have power, when they implement this bailout. He will be in Oyo State then. I don't know if he will win, though, his governorship ambition.
So what if he doesn't win? Is he going to come back as a minister again?
It depends on our president. You know, our president is very benevolent. And anybody that has offended the president, because Mr. President took a risk by putting his second-term bid on generation of power, that if you don't have electricity, don't vote for me. And if he doesn't, and we can see the scorecard of the power ministry. But what I think will happen is, if he doesn't win, going by Mr. President's antecedents, might just make him an ambassador to Central African Republic or Burundi. You know, because people that offended Mr. President in the past, they are ambassadors to Mexico.
Wow.
And we hear Mexico is saying no. We hear other countries are also saying no.
No, Israel, I think that's the first
Israel,
one.
India, Mexico.
It's India.
India, Mexico, and a few others. But
I do want us to take a story still on the front page of Al Jazeera, because again, it's closely linked to the depravity that we saw in Ozoro. And this is the story of a 91-year-old, or an older woman who was raped and murdered by a 21-year-old man. The police arrest 21-year-old man for alleged rape and murder of an elderly woman. This young man is named Alabi Anthony, and he has been arrested for the alleged rape and killing of an elderly woman in Iborokpa, Akoko, in the Akoko Northeast local government area of Ondo State. It was said that he confessed, the victim confessed to actually raping her before strangling her. This goes back to talk about, again, the depravity in our society. What sort of pleasure do you desire, or what sort of pleasure do you get from having forceful carnal knowledge of a woman, knowing this person is helpless in this situation? Who gives you the right to take over another person's body? So this is wrong on all levels. Wrong on the front, the face of him taking carnal knowledge of another human being, of another woman, and the fact that it's even an older woman, an elderly woman. Wrong on so many counts. And people have started arguing that we need to have stronger punitive measures for rape cases. Stronger punitive measures. Some parts of the world have provided for castration. Maybe we should start to look at that, and if that will curb the randy human beings that we're seeing in our society. But let's look at another paper this morning. This Nigerian newspaper, on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper, the big story there says, gunmen hit Kwara again, abduct 8 church worshippers. Really sad. We won't allow insecurity overshadow our efforts at helping the vulnerable, Tinubu says. IGP disbands SWAT, RRS, anti-kidnapping, other tactical squads nationwide amid rising insecurity. PDP needs genuine reconciliation for tasks ahead. Wike, Abdulrahman, Ikbazu, others say. Fuel hike, prices of food, services increase. Citizens want federal government intervention. £746 million Nigeria deal will save UK steel firms, says Prime Minister.
Why are we calling it a deal? It's a loan. A loan, okay, loan deal.
Loan deal. You know, like in football, you reach a deal. Whether it's a loan or whether it's agreement or whether it's outright sale or it's a deal.
But let's hope it moves from MOU to actualization. Because that's always been our bane.
But nobody's also talking about the asylum.
Oh, yes. That's not a
quiet
good,
on that part of
it's not a very palatable deal to talk about.
That the deal, in as much as the money is coming, there's also there's a clause on asylum that nobody's talking about.
Yes. People that have overstayed their asylum deal and convicted and violent criminals of Nigerian origin. So
have to be brought back.
Not anybody that toasts you with accent.
Yes.
Is IJGB.
Why are you looking at me and saying that?
As IJGB. You are the only one that is toastable on this set.
Wow. This is
Have you seen our fingers? Joe, please.
Today that's what you're reading. We'll not hear a word.
Fingers started.
Okay, we have the bottom story on this Nigerian newspaper is one that we started the show with. It's biting. We cannot talk about how biting it is enough. Fuel prices, the hike has increased the price of food, services have increased. And, you know, I would say that employers of labor need to look for ways to meet employees halfway.
To mitigate.
Mitigate it. If you can afford to increase, give them transport allowance, please do. If you cannot, think of the ways in which you can make life easier for them. If they don't have to come to work every day, by all means, please let them work from home. We did it.
Even from home, where's power?
We can do it. And no, but at least they are not paying transport fare. You are reducing the burden in some measure. So please, what we're saying is, it's really tough time. It's tough time for citizens, it's tough time for employers, it's tough time for employees. What we're saying is we need to find a way to meet each other halfway. If people cannot come to work, allow them to work from home, unless it's, of course, the kind of work that requires them to be there physically every day.
Olive, this crisis has been going on for 3 weeks. I believe this is the 4th week now, and it's enough time for the government to have done behind-the-scenes meetings and come up with a comprehensive strategy. If they don't address Nigerians this week or lay out their plans,
then it's safe to say that they don't have a plan.
Yeah, exactly.
You are even talking about the government. For me, I'm asking, where's the National Assembly? Where are they?
When we come back,
they haven't convened.
You know, it's almost like the National Assembly is reactive. They wait for things to blow out of proportion.
It's almost like.
It is.
It is.
You can't say it's almost like. Look at
are they
US
serving
Congress
us or we're serving them?
To talk about the state of insecurity in Nigeria before. Let's go on a break.
You're right.
We'll come back to talk about, take one more paper before we call it a day here on Breakfast Central. As we wind down here on Breakfast Central this morning, let's check the Punch newspaper to see what the front pages are saying. Punch you with a punch. On the front page of the Punch, Makinde meets Kwankwaso as PDP reconciliation falters. We can see here Makinde, Bala, Kwankwaso meeting sparks fears of mass movement to NDC. This new NDC is giving Labour Party in 2023.
It will fizzle out. It's just
PDP camps clash over convention, support for Tinubu. PDP factions trade blame for failed reconciliation. Recapitalization.
Before we go to recapitalization, I just want to get your views on this PDP factions. You know, they try to talk, but they failed. So, and in some marriages, I mean, they're divorces. They cite irreconcilable differences. So, is it possible for this, for the stakeholders in this PDP crisis to put aside their differences without judicial intervention and solve their problems?
Chances are very low. It'd be a very miraculous
for me,
thing
there are
for
two
that to
chances.
What is it?
Slim
and none.
I knew it.
I knew you were going somewhere. I just knew.
Please, let's finish the Punch newspaper front page.
But just to comment on that as well, over the weekend, we do have footage showing that, the meeting, Obi meeting with Kwankwaso, the Kwankwaso movement. You also had, nobody's even asking questions. Bala Mohammed came over the weekend and said he has not moved to APC. But do you guys recall that 2 weeks ago, stories were circulating that he's about to announce his move to APC? And we did have a guest on Monday last week join us
political suspense.
Yes, that he has been pushed to the corner, so he needs to make a choice. And that's because his finance commissioner was arrested.
On serious charges of terrorism financing.
And all of a sudden, while the commissioner was arrested, we now heard that, okay, he's moving to APC. Just on Friday, I stumbled on that video where he said he's not going anywhere. He never made such announcements. And then he joins them for this meeting where they're trying to form, maybe everybody's going to move to a new party. Remember, the deadline is very close. They have to move quickly before the INEC rule catches up with them.
But they're not the only ones that have a short deadline. Banks recapitalization. Remember we talked about the banks that
also has a short deadline as well.
I think they have 1 week.
They've met it, right?
No, the number of the Punch newspaper has it. Some have met their, have met up with
those
that.
have met.
On the front page of the Punch, we're seeing that they have 1 week, so it's rush hour for the banks, and we hope that they're able to meet up. But this is all that we can take today on Breakfast Central. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow. Before Winga signs out with a dry joke.
No. I just I love this set design, but sometimes we don't get enough credit for what we do or the looks because it hides our shoes. I really wish. One of my regrets in life is that our viewers at home cannot see Olive's shoe right now.
Solid.
Joe, solid. Look at it.
I'll take pictures of it and post on Instagram. All right, I'll post it.
Our director says you can step aside and show the shoe.
Yeah. Olive, a stitch in time saves what? A stitch in time saves.
For the sake of our global audience,
they won't think I have money if I stand up.
You need to cut your coat. You are spending too much.
If I stand up,
you are spending
first of all,
you are spending too much on shoes.